Hey, you know what? I found it. It's in the oven. Glad we hadn't turned that oven on yet. All right. Good. Hey, well, welcome. Did you find your phone?
No. Do you have any idea where I put it?
No. Did you look on the table?
I don't see it.
Not behind the M&Ms?
No. I didn't put it in the other oven, did I? No.
Did you check the fridge?
Oh, no, I didn't. Oh, there it is. We're good.
Oh, all right. So, hey, welcome back. Here we are. We're getting ready to begin. We made our trip to the grocery store, and we got all the things we need. We did add some spices from home. We talked about some of the things we needed, and we looked at the Tone spices. We actually have the Hy-Vee brand spices here, all lined up. So what we've done is we brought our bowls, and we've got all of our materials. Mrs. Ratliff brought some butter. We forgot to pick it up yesterday. We've got some containers for the leftovers after we eat our meal today. And we have then our cooking trays and things to use there. So what we've done is we've laid out the recipes, and we've looked, and we know that the pizza cupcakes have to be cooked at 375 degrees. And we know that the zucchini, baked Parmesan zucchini, has to be baked at 350, as do the monster cookies. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and program the ovens. We're going to get them set up. So we're going to watch Big Y here as he sets this up.
Ooh, they're already at 350. This one was.
So he's got his set at 350. This one over here then will be set at 375. So that it takes a little while for the heating coils in the ovens to warm up. So we want to give them a chance to warm up. So because each of these take about the same amount of time to cook, 18 minutes on the cupcakes, 12 to 15 on the zucchini and the monster cookies, we're going to go ahead and get things started. It doesn't really matter which one we do first because they're all going to take about the same amount of time. So Mrs. Ratliff is going to complete most of the pizza cupcakes. So on that one, she's going to be using her, I don't know where she went. She's not in the kitchen to cook.
I'm right here.
Ooh.
Oh, she's right over there. A little bit late to the party, but that's all right. Better late than never. So I'm going to hand her her recipe, and she's going to talk about what she's doing.
All right, so it says we need 1 can of refrigerated crescent rolls, which are these. And we'll need a half a cup of pizza.
Remember, those were 3 for $5.
That's right. We're actually going to do more than one of this recipe. 1/4 a cup mini pepperonis. We took out the Italian sausage because we don't necessarily want to do that, but you are welcome to do beef or whatever type of pizza you like. You can make in these little cups.
Squirrel.
Yep. And then a half a cup of mozzarella cheese. And so the first thing we're going to do after they heated the ovens is we're going to spray the muffin cups with cooking spray. And then we're supposed to unroll the dough into 8 triangles and press them into the muffin cups.
All right, so as she's working on that, Mr. Youngblood and I will probably work on the monster cookies together because I've seen both of us in the kitchen. We probably want to both work together.
But first, I'm going to show you guys my secret recipe. So, you buy your Easy Mac.
So I just took I had a can of coconut oil spray at home, so I just went ahead and sprayed each of the cup holders in here. Now I have 2 12-cup muffin tins, so to figure out how many that would be, I can take 12 times 2, or I can add 12 plus 12, and I would get 24. That's right. All right, so I decided I'm going to actually triple this recipe because when I have made these before at home, one batch will not last, as I talked about in the store yesterday. When you only make 8 and there's 5 people in our house, 4 of them are probably going to eat these. I usually don't eat them, but they'll eat at least 2, and that might be 1 serving, but we want to have leftovers in our house when we can. All right, so the first step after that is you're supposed to take out the crescent rolls. So I always smack them on the counter to kind of help open that up just a little bit. Oh, goodness. All right, so these look kind of sticky. So what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to use a cookie sheet that we're not using right now, just to lay them on to make sure that make sure things are food's kept clean. So I'm just going to roll them out on here. Maybe. I did wash my hands before I started cooking. That's really an important thing to do too. Before you start handling food, you always want to make sure your hands are good and clean so that you don't get any germs or anything like that into the food. All right. So as you unroll these, they just look like this. Okay? So I gotta look back at my directions because I can't remember. Unroll the dough and separate it into the triangles. And then it says to simply press them into the muffin cup. So really that can be whatever works for you. I would probably try to even it out of this a little bit, like this one's a little thicker on the side, and kind of put that down in the bottom, and then just kind of work the dough around so that it's going to hang off to the side. That's okay, but you want to make sure there's plenty of dough in there. So it looks like that.
I would love it if Mrs. Ratliff had plenty of dough. We would probably live in Florida.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and fill these others, and then we'll be right back. All right, so I have gotten all of the crescent rolls into the muffin tins. And then we had bought regular sized pepperoni yesterday because that's what we could find, and that's probably a better deal. And so I just went ahead and cut some up. I don't know if I have enough because it just says 1/4 of a cup. I haven't measured that yet. So if I needed this, triple this batch, think about how much am I actually going to need if I do 1/4 of a cup times 3. All right, so the next step it would be you're going to take some pepperoni. I'm sorry, I got pepperoni in my mind. We got sauce here. It's 1/2 cup for 8. And so Mr. Ratliff went ahead and put that into a cup for me so that I was able to
I'm good
get
at measuring things.
Mm-hmm. Yes. All right, so now we're going to take this. Oh, it actually says to mix the sauce and pepperoni and the cheese all together. That is different than I have actually done it in the past. So what do you think? Should we follow the recipe or do my own thing?
I think because you're experienced in the kitchen and you know what you're doing.
We trust you.
We trust you.
Okay.
Hey, I also want to welcome Pastor Chris. Pastor Chris was working upstairs and, you know, Mrs. Ratliff snuck in the back door. So my guess is that he was afraid that it was just Tyson and Mr. Youngblood and myself down in the kitchen by ourselves. So very responsible of him to check on us to make sure we did have somebody responsible.
He's
I
also
was concerned that, you know, I didn't hear any smoke alarms going off yet, but I was making sure that there was a responsible adult down here. And of course, it wouldn't have been me. I would have to come.
I'm just glad I'm here today, I guess.
We're glad you're here today as well. So she's got that first 1/2 cup measured. I'm going to get another one ready while she continues on.
So what I did is I just used a regular spoon, and then I just spooned some of the pizza sauce into the 8 that we have. And so then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to take I don't think I brought 1/4 of a cup with me. Oh, I did. All right. So you would take the 1/4 of a cup, so we can kind of see what that's supposed to look like for the 8. Uh-oh, I am just not doing a very good job there. All right, so that's about 1/4 of a cup. So that's what we're supposed to split between the different ones. Now, again, you could have used hamburger or you could use sausage in there as well. And when we get done, if we have extra pepperoni, I'll probably go back and add some more pepperoni to each cup because that is not a lot of pepperoni, friends. Ooh, I didn't make it.
Well, I'm going to double check her recipe to see 1/4. Yeah, that's not very much.
Yeah, so I'm going to add some more, and it looks like I'm going to have to cut some more pepperoni up. So Tyson likes to eat these as well. Do you want a lot of pepperoni in there or just a little bit, Tyson?
gotta say a lot.
This might be the toughest decision you make all day. He goes with a lot. Good
Go big or
choice.
go home.
All right,
Good
so
choice.
I'm going to just add some more in here because there's no reason when you're making these on your own, you can kind of fudge the recipe a little bit, especially when you're doing something like this where that amount's not going to affect your baking time. All right, so I've got those in there. And so then the last step for this 8 is it says you're supposed to have 1/2 cup, which is 2 ounces of the cheese. So you probably should.
I'm from Wisconsin, you can't put too much cheese on it. So she's going to go ahead and just sprinkle that cheese on there.
Again, you can always go back and add some more once you get done if you don't think it's enough. All right, so the muffins, the pizza muffins have come out of the oven. They actually look really great. Yes. And I heard maybe somebody took some credit for them, but that's okay. You could always sprinkle a little more cheese on the top of them if you would want, if you like cheese enough. And I think we're also, these are the zucchini, in case you didn't see those. They turned out really great. I think we're going to put some mozzarella cheese on that as well when we get ready to eat them. All right, so the last thing that we're going to make is Oreo Fluff. And the recipe that I printed off, I think is supposed to be like a healthy version, which is good. But we're going to go ahead and double that. And we kind of are using regular Oreos instead of reduced fat Oreos, which
Yeah.
didn't even know there was such a thing. So it calls for 2 cups of skim milk. So if I'm going to double this recipe, I'm going to need how many cups, Tyson?
4.
4 cups.
Woo!
So I'm going to get 4 cups. This is the bowl I'm going to put the fluff in. So I am going to just go ahead and use it. I've found in my experience, easier cleanup when we're done if I'm already using the same bowl. All right, so there's 4 cups. Now here's where the tricky part's going to come in. Because the first direction says whisk together the pudding mix and the milk. Well, the pudding mix comes in a 3.4 ounce container, or bag, I guess. And because when we went to the store yesterday, we didn't see the 1 ounce. So I'm going to add, I think, about this much. And then we're going to kind of look at the consistency. But I do have to stir it for 2 minutes, and then we'll just kind of see where we are. All right, while I am whisking together the milk and the pudding mix, Tyson is counting out some Oreos to crush them up into a bag. So it had said 6, so we're going to do 12. Again, we're going to look and see what that's like when we're finished to see if that consistency is what we want it to be. So he's still counting. I have my watch set for 2 minutes that I'm supposed to be using to stir this together. And the reason they have you stir it for that long is to make sure that all the little tiny particles of the pudding mix are getting mixed in with the milk. All right, now you want to get all that air out of there. Let me help you first. Now I'll just shut it. Make sure it's shut now, just kind of squish them. And break them up in tiny pieces. Now, if I were at home and I didn't think about it today, I would use a rolling pin to roll over the top of them, which would help them to get even better or more finely crushed. There you go, Mr. Wise.
Improvise.
That's right. Don't make holes in the bag, or they're gonna come out all over when we flip the bag. All right, there's my timer. Okay, so Tyson got the cookies all crumbled, so I'm going to dump those in, and then we're also supposed to add
The cookie crumble.
all right, put these out of here, and then we add in the Cool Whip, and then we just kind of, it says fold in the Cool Whip. You don't want to stir it a lot, because then the Cool Whip can end up kind of liquidy, and then it doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't set up right. Take my spatula, and it wanted an 8-ounce container of Cool Whip, and this one is a 16. 8 times 2 is what, Tyson?
16.
So we've got the right amount that we need.
All right, so what we're working on is we're starting to go down our ingredient list. We had 4 zucchini. They're right over there. We haven't linked them yet. We've got a half a cup grated Parmesan, so we've got that. Half teaspoon of dried thyme, which we've already put in this little container.
It's time.
It's time. the TH
Thank you, Mrs. Ratliff.
is like with or this. It's not like that. I don't know. It's English language. We'll have to ask Mrs. Kaler or Mrs. Heaton. So it's thyme, and then we've got dried oregano. So we put the oregano in. There's our oregano, and we've got the garlic powder. Now the garlic powder was 1/4, so we just took 1/8 times 2, which gives us 1/4 for our garlic powder. And dried basil leaves is what we're at next. So again, it's kind of messy trying to get all of this to come out into this little measuring spoon here. But we'll do that. So that is our basil leaf. And once we put them in twice, if we had double the garlic powder, it probably wouldn't be that good. And now we need kosher salt, freshly ground black pepper.
This says to taste. So
To
that's
taste.
however much we want to
We're
add.
probably not going to put the pepper in there for right now. And we're going to grind some salt. It says that there's... Oh, so we'll just add a little bit of salt. I like salt. We'll just grind some up here. And then, this is pretty crazy. You open this up and you can dump the salt right in. You got some salt in there too. So, Tyson, thank you. Tyson's here helping us a little bit. So, we'll just put a little black pepper in there for taste. All right, so with that, then we need some olive oil and some chopped parsley leaves. So I'll let Mr. Youngblood get the olive oil. I've got my parsley flakes. It's a leaf cut up into smaller pieces. And I need 2 tablespoons of this. So I've got my tablespoon right here. One.
Perfect.
And 2. So we've got those. Those would be called the dry ingredients, mainly because they're dry.
I
Yep.
like your humor.
All right. So Mr. Youngblood's going to need the...
We'll probably wait on the olive oil because we drizzle this over them after they're all cut.
Okay. If you want to measure
Ready to
that
go.
out, you gotta get it measured, and then we'll wait to put that in. That's a great idea.
How many tablespoons is it? 2?
Oh, we can maybe put it in here if we want to. All right, so that's what we've got. We can see Mrs. Ratliff is still going to town on her muffins. Pizza muffins. Getting the dough all pressed into the pizza trays.
We're good to go on olive oil now.
So now we need a quarter of the zucchini lengthwise. So if you're baking at home, if you're doing things at home, make sure that your parents are there close by. Also, one thing that we have close by, just in case we need it, is a first aid kit. Not that I've ever ended up with small injuries from doing things where I shouldn't be injured, but just in case we do have this, we're going to set it right over here. We'll have Dr. Tyson fix us up if we have issues.
We also have a responsible adult in the kitchen, aka Mrs. Ratliff, in case one of us does get hurt.
So as we go to quarter the zucchini, what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to slice the end off. Now I'm going to throw a disclaimer out there. Always cut away from yourself. So I'm cutting away from myself this time. I didn't on the last one. And then we're just simply going to quarter it. So we're going to slice down through. We're going to use this pan here as a cutting board just for safety so I don't get into the counter. Again, we do want to thank the Albia Baptist Temple for allowing us to have this large kitchen to work in today. Again, Pastor Christopher Harris is the pastor here, and he agreed to allow us with the social distancing to not be so crammed together as we do this. So, as it says quarter the zucchini, what it means is just put it into 4 little pieces. So we've got it into 4 pieces. I'm going to set those in the bowl right here for now and get to work on the next one. There's another knife in that top drawer over there if you'd like to use it. So again, cutting away from myself, and now I'm going to slice down through. First making it halves, and then I'll cut down through the halves. Now if this were summertime, what we would do is we would take these out and we would put them on the grill, because if you slow grill them, it seems to keep the flavor. Wrap them in like an aluminum foil, and then it keeps that flavor in there. Some of you are thinking right now, what? Mr. Ratliff understands cooking? Nobody likes to eat, so he watches other people when they cook meals, so he can understand how to let Mrs. Ratliff know to cook them at some time for him. So again, cutting away from ourselves, using this cutting board underneath us so we don't cut into the table.
It's safe, don't worry.
And we're going to quarter it. Now, if you get a really large zucchini and you're making this dish, you're probably going to want to go either an eighth or a sixth, something a little bit smaller of a fraction. But these are nice small zucchinis, so quartering them is going to work out really good today. So it says from here to preheat the oven. We've already done that. Coat a cooling rack with non-stick spray and place on a baking sheet and set aside. So a cooling rack would kind of look like...
There's some over on the counter over there.
Look like this. So these are cooling racks. You can see Tyson's got them held up. So we're going to have to coat those with a non-stick spray and place them on a baking sheet and set it aside. So our baking sheets are over here. So Tyson's going to put one of those on. We're going to get our spray, which we have right here. And we're using coconut oil. It's Luana's. So I guess Luana's probably from Louisiana. I'm not sure. But we're going to coat that with the rack. Now the drying rack's set up with little triangle indentions on it so that it doesn't stick to whatever's underneath it. So we're just going to lightly coat that. I might got my phone there a little bit too. That's all right. So that's lightly coated. From here we're going to do what, Mr. Y?
So in small bowl, we've already combined all those in our measuring cup right here, just because we only had one half teaspoon. So we've already combined all of the dry ingredients. So place the zucchini onto the prepared baking sheet and drizzle with olive oil and sprinkle with Parmesan mixture. So we're gonna take all of the zucchini and put it on that baking tray that Mr. Ratliff so nicely prepared.
So far it might be my best work of the day.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to fit all these on there, with leaving a little bit of space between them so that they're not completely touching. And then Ratliff's gonna get the dry ingredients. It's looking like we might have to do a second tray.
So I've got the Parmesan now mixed in with the other leaves and spices. And I don't know, what do you think? Can we smash those together? Probably be all right.
Do we want to?
Yeah, let's do. We want to make sure we have plenty of cookie trays for those monster cookies when we get them going.
Push those over. All right. Got them all to fit. So here comes the drizzling.
Now,
So-
I think, and I'm not sure Mrs. Ratliff would know better if we can get her to come over here for a moment, but I think the reason why we're drizzling this oil over the top of the zucchini is to get our mixture to stay on top of the zucchinis. So
Yes,
we've
give it
washed our
less
hands.
flavor.
They're clean. We don't want anybody to think, hey, they're using dirty hands. What if Mr. Youngbutt just picked his nose? We know that we're clean. He hasn't done that since he's washed his hands at least. So he's drizzling that now over the top.
Spread out as much as possible.
And then according to the recipe, we're just going to kind of put this over the top of it. When it cooks, it should cook it into kind of a golden brown color. And you can see why the drying rack. That way the oil and things don't stick to the bottom of it. And it also allows anything that falls off of the zucchini because it didn't get in the oil to be caught. Ooh, that's going to be a good one.
I'm calling that one already.
So a little extra on that. So looks like we're going to be just about right. We're going to try to cover up some of the spots that's falling off of here.
You can always add a little more olive oil if you think you need it.
Perfect.
So Mrs. Ratliff says we can adjust the recipe just a little bit. Again, she's a responsible cook. Maybe just a little bit on there and on this side here. Olive oil is good. We learned, Miss Riney, if you're watching this, we learned this in math class this year earlier, that it takes 20 pounds, I said pounds, of olives in order to make 1 cup of olive oil. That's why olive oil is kind of expensive, because it takes a lot of olives and a lot of processing, smashing those down, getting the juice out of it. I don't know how they get olive juice out of it, but I do know that olives are amazing.
So also, if you watched episode 3 part 2, you'll see that oil and water don't mix. That was part of the science experiment I did with Grayson.
All right, so I'm going to get the timer out before he puts those in the oven. We're going to check one more time to make sure that we have this in the correct oven, because we know we have 2 ovens going. One is at $3.75, and one is at $3.50. Sorry.
Okay, so we need the 351.
So I'm gonna open the door, step to the side in case a big wave of heat comes out. You know what you call that?
A heat wave.
A heat wave.
Yeah.
All right. So he's gonna put those in there, and now that he has, I'm gonna just go ahead and start the timer on that, and I'm gonna leave my phone just right here next to it.
Not on the oven.
Not on the oven. I did leave a phone on a roof once, and it was hot. I went inside to take a break because I like taking breaks when I work. And I came back out about 3 hours later. It was a good break. And my phone had melted to the shingles
He fell asleep.
on the top of the roof. I did. I fell asleep in the easy chair inside where the air conditioner was. So we've now got the baked Parmesan zucchini done, except for the baking part.
Hey, wait. Finger check. I still got all 10. He still got all 10.
got all 10.
We're winning right now.
All right, so as the baked zucchini is cooking and Mrs. Ratliff is working on the pizza cupcakes, we're getting ready to start the monster cookies. So in here, it tells us to preheat the oven to 350 degrees, line 2 baking sheets with parchment paper. So this is parchment paper. It's kind of a waxy film, and it's kind of for a non-stick, so you don't have all that burnt cookie stuff on your cookie pans when you're done. We do have those cookie sheets. We're not going to prepare those quite yet. It says in a bowl of stand mixer fitted. I don't know what that means. With a paddle attachment, cream together sugar, brown sugar, butter, light and fluffy. Okay, so we have to first get the ingredients in there. So we're going to separate it into what's called wet ingredients, something with moisture or some greasy type products on it, and dry, which means
Like your humor, dry.
dry, like my humor, dry. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go through I don't know which ones I'll do. I'll do the ones with the eggs. So we're making a double batch, so we're going to take everything times 2. As we put the ingredients in, we're just going to check them off. Mrs. Ratliff is concerned about the oats. She's correct. We only bought 13 ounces. Correction, 13 whatevers, which gives us 6.5 cups. So 6.5 cups, and we need 8 cups if we double it. So we're going to go 1.5. We're going to make this tricky. 1.5 times all the ingredients. So we'll see if we do this right. So if it says 1 cup of sugar, I know that I'm going to need 1.5 cups of sugar.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
It does. I don't know about that. There's one. Good. We have a half cup measuring utensil somewhere here.
Oh, yeah. It's a
I
pizza
could
sauce.
just estimate I can get pretty close on this half cup. Remember at the store how we estimated the pounds of the zucchini to be 2 3/8, and it came out to be 2.43. Pretty close. So there's 1.5 cups of sugar. I'm going to mark that off. And then we have 1 cup packed brown sugar. So again, we're going to need 1.5 cups of brown sugar. He's just using that bowl there to make sure.
So I'm not making a mess. I don't want to have to go through and clean everything up again.
Now, I don't recommend this at home, but it's really tasty. If you just eat brown sugar straight, or throw a little bit on your oatmeal in the mornings, it's really, really good. Now, there's a reason why we pack the brown sugar. Anybody?
My hands are washed.
Anybody at home know why we pack the brown sugar? Mrs. Ratliff, would you tell them?
I thought you knew.
No, I don't know. I was hoping that Mrs. Ratliff would bail me out there. Maybe Mr. Youngbutt knows.
Is that your half cup or
That's,
no? I have
that's
no
a half
idea.
cup of packed. So I'm gonna put my half cup in there. Comes out in a big old clump. Kind of a moist ingredient. So we have the half cup. He's adding the 1. Now it says 1/2 cup or 1 stick of unsalted butter at room temperature, which means we need 1 1/2 sticks of butter.
We got this.
So we have the 1 stick right here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of chop it up so it mixes easier. A little trick that I think my grandma taught me way back in the day. Because this is all going to be mixed together, so if you can put these into smaller pieces, then it's going to work pretty good. So this is the 1 stick. And Mr. Y is going to soften the other stick up. We only had 1 stick out warming up from being in the refrigerator because dairy products usually are kept in the refrigerator. So we'll wait for the 1/2 stick to come from there. And then it says 3 large eggs. So I'm going to have to figure out how to do 4.5 eggs.
You might just have to add an extra egg.
We may just go.
Maybe we just need to get some more oatmeal.
Have an extra egg. So we've got 1. There's 2. Easy to keep track of how many I put in. I just put the cracked eggs back into the container. So there's 3. Always be careful not to get little chunks of eggshell in there.
Soft enough. Okay.
Not very convenient when you do that. Some facts about the eggs is the hardest part of each egg are the ends. So if you're going to break these eggs, you see that I dropped a piece in there. I'll get it out. The hardest part of the egg is the ends. So if you're gonna break an egg, you want to break it somewhere in the middle. So it cracks a lot easier right there. So we know this is going to be just a little bit extra on the egg. So I'm going to try to get half of that, and we got about half the egg in there. Now it'd be interesting to see at the end if this actually worked or not. So Mr. Youngblood has now put in the
Other half stick of butter. So we've got, I think we've got all our, so where's your pencil at? There it is. So we've got our brown sugar.
Yep.
For 1.5. We've got our 1.5 sticks of butter. We've got
4.5.
4.5 eggs. We've got our peanut butter. Which
Says-
is,
Wait, do
2 1/4 cups of peanut butter we need. We'll get a big spoon here and dip that out. And you can use the butter knife, right? The only difference is the peanuts versus the butter. We'll see if we can chunk that out. Probably gonna wait for the spoon here.
and he may be from Wisconsin, but where I'm from, you can never have too much peanut butter. So if we add more peanut butter, I'm not going to be mad about it.
Peanut butter really gives it that protein. So the way I look at monster cookies is this. They're healthy. They're the perfect breakfast food because we're going to put some oatmeal in there, right? And oatmeal is good for you. And we're going to put some peanut butter in there, which supplies us with protein we need to get our days started with. So then you have just that little bit of flavoring with the sugar and the M&Ms. There's 1 cup. So really, eggs are involved in here. So think about that. We've got eggs, good for you. We've got peanut butter, good for you. We have oatmeal, really good for you. It seems to me that the perfect breakfast would be monster cookies. Now, if you want to make it even better, you can crumble them up and let them soak in your milk for just a few minutes if they get hard. If they're soft, you may not have to do that. But perfect breakfast. Think Mrs. Ralph will let me eat those for breakfast?
Yes.
Oh, she said yes. You heard it here first, folks. Tyson, I don't think that goes for you, though.
No.
Oh, he got shut down with a no. So, well, that doesn't seem fair. And, you know, Bill Gates, very, very successful businessman, he's got what he calls his keys to being 11. And that means, you know, 10 is usually considered to be the best you can be. To be even better than your best. Rule number 1 on that, Mr. Youngblood, do you know what his rule number 1 is?
Eat monster cookies for breakfast?
No, that should be up there high on the list. It actually is, and those of you in my room have probably heard me talk about this, where I get to eat monster cookies but Tyson doesn't, and that's not fair. We have to know that sometimes
Life's not fair.
Mr. Youngblood did
Dude, we
that.
talk about that in my classroom all the time about how life's not fair.
So that's 2, and now we know that this will be about a 4th.
Yep.
So we're going to put that in there as well. So now we've got this big bowl of all of these ingredients. So we're getting ready to check on the baked Parmesan zucchini. So we've got a little bit of golden brown turning on there. Now we know it said 18 minutes, but it also said could cook up a little bit longer. We're going to rotate this 360 degrees. We're going to give it a couple more minutes to get just a little more cooking in on that. So things are looking good there. We like that. And we're getting ready to add that vanilla.
So, I think the baked zucchini is done. We'll get the rat lip approval. Ooh, look at that golden brown.
Oh, that's perfect. We'll just set that right on top.
That looks amazing.
So, a well-balanced meal will deal with a main dish. Usually has something with some meat in it. We've got the pepperoni, not that that's a legitimate meat. But we've got that, and we've got the breading that makes up the bottom of the muffins. We've got our vegetable right here. Tyson's actually going to put together the fruit for us, and then we're making the dessert, which is definitely just an added bonus. So we're going to work on the dry ingredients. And we've got a separate bowl for those dry ingredients. And so
For a well-balanced meal, you need a main course, fruits and vegetables. We have the pizza cupcakes, some baked Parmesan zucchini. I'm gonna get the fruit ready.
All right, so we've already added the baking soda, and so one of the last ingredients that we need to add would be our salt. So add our salt in there, and then the oats, right, and our M&Ms. Oh yeah, we can't forget the M&Ms. That'd be bad. Okay, so we've got our M&Ms. So we're gonna add our M&Ms into there. Oop, into the dry. My bad.
We might have put the salt into the wet, but it's okay. It'll work. So we've put 1.5 because we know we're taking a 1.5. That sounds like the muffins might be ready. Let's take a quick peek at that.
Oh, look at those. They're beautiful.
Yes, they are.
So a little golden brown right there. Mrs. Ratliff had to step aside, so we'll take credit. Look at the great muffins that we made.
Yeah, we did all this. No help whatsoever.
Perfect work by us. We like it. All right. We're going to sprinkle just a little extra cheese on top of that here in a minute as well. We're going to go back to adding the dry ingredients. Looks like he's got the M&Ms in there. And he's got the chocolate chips ready to go.
Add our chocolate chips.
And then it says 4.5 cups of oats. So we're going to go ahead and look. This is going to be 16 ounces. I think we're going to get 4.5 for sure. We're pretty close to 1. There's 2. There's 3. There's 4. There's a half. So we just need 2.25 more cups of oats to put in there.
All right, so since we've seen how Mr. Y and Mr. Ratliff are with power tools, I decided to go ahead and do the first part of the cookies. All right, so I put the beaters in. I didn't bring our stand-up mixer, so we're just going to go through and mix this up here. When you're mixing it up, one thing that I don't have, I'm going to stop and get that real quick, is a spatula so that you can kind of scoot stuff down as you, scoot stuff off of the sides as you're mixing it to make sure that everything gets mixed up well. All right, so I think we are about done here. I always lift it up just a little bit. And there we go. All right, so now we're ready to add the dry ingredients. It won't matter.
So, Mr. Ratliff, as I was preparing for this episode last night, I was going to look up some kitchen jokes. Okay?
All right.
Except for I thought that would be too cheesy.
This is one of the most exciting parts about cooking for me.
Baking.
Baking. This would be baking because it's in an oven. It's getting the cookies out if they're ready. So let's check them out. Oh, ho, ho, ho. Now, Mrs. Ratliff said the way to test these is to eat one. Not really. She said the way to test them is to put a toothpick in it. So we're going to put a toothpick right there in that tray of cookies. So we've got the first batch of cookies out of the oven. They look good. We're going to put them on the cooling rack. Again, it's a cooling rack because air can hit them from the top, both sides, but also from the bottom. That's going to allow them to cool, and then they'll harden up just a little bit. They're still pretty soft. I'm guessing. I haven't really put my fingers in it and squeezed it open yet. But so we're going to let this go, and then Mr. Y is getting the next batch ready. While these are cooking, we're probably going to go ahead and eat the main meals. Mrs. Ratliff had those in the third oven here in the kitchen, and so they still should be warm and ready to go. All All right, so it's now time to eat. Mrs. Ratliff doesn't have gloves on, so I'll grab these out of the oven. And again, she was just keeping them warm for us as we were waiting. So we're gonna go set this on the table.
Yeah.
Like a hand puppet.
You want to put the foil on that baking sheet. Or right there, Alex.
Very hot.
All right, so looking pretty good. I'm gonna grab a couple of knives so we can cut through the zucchini pieces. We'll take our aprons off. I don't know, I've seen me eat. Maybe I should leave it on as protection. But I know all you Vikings fans out there. Jay, where are you at? Go Green Bay. All right, so I brought out a plate of monster cookies for the good of the group. And then, of course, I brought out Mr. Youngbutt's monster cookie as well as my monster cookie. So it looks like the meal went over pretty good. We've got not very much left. Looks like Mrs. Ratliff didn't clean up all of her zucchini, fourth graders, so you have to get after her about that. The rest of us did a pretty good job of cleaning off our plate. Again, we sure hope you enjoyed the video. We're going to come out with some questions on unit pricing. We'll come out with some other mathematical and science-related questions as well.
Let us know what you guys end up cooking at home. Leave your guys' recipes, and maybe we can share different recipes to try some new food.
And again, one more time, a big shout out to Mrs. Thomas and Mrs. Ratliff who agreed to join us for this video. Good help here by young Mr. Tyson today as well. We want to thank Hy-Vee. We also stopped at Jim and Charlie's today. I'm not going to mention who, but we miscalculated on the oats, and we might have forgot some vanilla for the cookies when we packed to come into town today. But we want to thank Jim and Charlie's for the helpfulness they are to the community. Again, the manager out at Hy-Vee, Brent, and what Hy-Vee allowed us to do out there through these videos, and the Albia Baptist Temple for allowing us to use their facilities to finish this video off today.